Well, you all liked her little shark tail in the last video. My cat is here. Hello and welcome. I don't know if that was caught on camera. I don't know how low it goes, but if you saw that, that was Betty leaping over Dax, who's still here, to get to the window, and that is funny. Anyway, hello and welcome. Chaotic start. Hey, BB. Oh, and there's August. Are you gonna rub up on that? Are you gonna be a pain in the butt? Let's see if I can I do the shark tail with you? Come on. She's like, nah. Dax is the only one who lets me do it. Jinx probably would, but Jinx isn't aware of what's happening around her ever. Also, it's been rainy here for the entire month of May, so the lighting is not great, but we're gonna power through it. It's fine. We're fine. Yeah? We're gonna have an issue. Okay, so today's video. Occasionally, I don't know, once a year, I like to kind of talk about my future rat plans because, as usual, I always have plans. I'm a woman with a plan. And sometimes I like to share it, sometimes I don't, just because I don't know always how well it's going to work out. But let's talk about it. This is the video for today. So, I was debating on what cage to start with because I like to kind of break these down by cage. Just for my own sanity, but I guess I'll start with the Gravies because I've kind of already talked about a little bit my plans with them, so they seem like a natural choice. So yeah, we'll talk about the Gravies, which is just Kelpie and Thistle, since Ursula did pass away last month. So my plans with them, for those of you who haven't seen my last vlog, which at this point I think was a couple weeks ago, I did attempt doing intros between the Gravies and the baby trio, and it did not go well. Pretty much immediately, Kelpie started a fight with Jelly, and I had to break it up. And by immediately, I mean they were together less than 5 minutes. We did not even get out of first stage intros. So I did break it up, and I separated them. And I wasn't surprised by this because I did suspect that I was going to need boys. For a long time, I thought I could get girls in with them, but after what was happening with Ursula, I was just like, you know what, I just get this feeling I'm going to need boys for them. So I did try it with them. Hi, Jelly. Yeah, that's the one that got beat up. So I did try it with them, and it became pretty clear immediately that that just was a no-go. And I do think that it's just girls in general, but they do get along better with spade girls. Unfortunately, I don't have a group right now that consists just of spade girls, so I can't do that. I had never tried with intact females before, and I do think that was why it was immediate hostility as opposed to what it normally is, which is we get all the way to the big cage before they decide to go full rage on other rats. And they never really do that with boys, except for once when Thistle had a bad choking instance. She did attack Baker, but I do think she regretted it because she never got into a fight with him again after that. So I do think I'm going to get them some boys. I was debating it pretty hard because if it doesn't work out, I might be in a situation which I'll get into in a second. But I've just decided that they would like more companions. They are not, I just don't feel like they are as happy as they were when they had more companions. So I do think I will be getting them some boys. And the reason I was so hesitant is 2 reasons. One, if it doesn't work out, that I didn't have to figure out what to do with those boys. And 2, if I can't get them neutered boys and I have to get them intact boys, that means I just have a new group of rats. And I love my rats. I love them so, so, so much. 5 groups of rats is a lot of rats, and I just don't really want to do that. But at the end of the day, I do think, unfortunately, they do need some boys. So I will be looking into that. I did contact a rescue that is near me, and they unfortunately only have 1 boy available right now. He's getting neutered at this point in a week and a half. I don't know how I feel about a singleton, just because, again, if it doesn't work out with them, I'm going to have to figure out how to get him in with someone else pretty quickly. And then to boot, if he's been alone, I don't know anything about him. I just know that he is the only rat that they have. Communication's been kind of slow, which is fine. But if he's been alone for a while, he might not know how to speak rat anymore, which means that he might not understand the social cues that Kelpie and Thistle are giving him very well. And with Kelpie, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. But with Thistle, I do think that she might be a little rude to him if he does not understand rat social cues very well. So, like, I'm a little hesitant about the single boy. And I just don't know if it's honestly going to work out because I haven't even, like, gone to tell him about, like, my setup, how many rats I have. And there's a very good chance that they'll hear I have 17 rats and be like, you know what? This isn't going to work out. I'm sorry. Which would suck, but, you know, I do have other options. And then if I have to get them intact boys, if they reject those boys, again, I then just have intact boys that I have to deal with. But if they reject the neutered boy, I can just put him in here with these guys. And then these guys would get switched to the big cage because it'd be a group of 4, and Kelpie and Thistle will get switched to this cage. So that's my plan for them, is I'm going to be getting some boys at some point soon. I'm hoping, like, I have some wiggle room because they are 2, but they're pretty healthy and they're both spayed. But also, after what happened with Ursula, I'm very hypervigilant of them and always aware that, you know, genetically speaking, one of them could have the same issue Ursula had and just die on me with very little warning. Moving on to this group, the baby trio. My plan with them is pretty simple, which is once I get the boys and I have figured out what I'm doing with them, if they don't need to be around for a rejected neutered boy, then when the cage in the living room is down to 5 rats, or it's currently at 5 rats, once it's down to 4 rats, I will be combining their 2 groups. I just don't like having 8 rats in a double because, like, while the double is technically big enough for 9 rats, I find that 7 is, like, the limit of my rats before it gets really hard to maintain, like, the cleanliness of it. And considering one of the rats that's in that group is nearly 3, I just don't want to risk it. And Cedar is turning 3 as of when I'm filming this, about 2 weeks from now. So, like, and she's pretty healthy, honestly. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to doing intros with her under the right circumstances, but their cage is just a little too full for me to feel comfortable putting more rats in there. But my plan is to combine what's in all likelihood going to be the quad and the 3 babies. Because, again, the quad is only about 1 year and 4 months old right now, whereas Suitor is 2 years and 11 months old, edging very close to 3, so the chances are good that the next one to pass away in that group is going to be Suitor. Hopefully nothing happens with the quad. Not prepared to deal with that mentally. But yeah, so that's what will happen, is I'll combine these 3 with the quad. And if for whatever reason the boys don't work out with them and they end up with some neutered companions, I could try the Grabies with them. I probably would try them with the quad because Blooper might be able to, like, boss lady her way through the situation. But if I don't do that, then I'll get the quad some companions that are a little bit younger just because they are, you know, getting older. They're not old yet, thankfully, but, like, they're at an age where I'd like them to have younger companions if possible. And that brings us neatly to that group, which is my dwarf group, and it also has Doyle and Weaver, who are standard size rats. So, let's talk about this. Okay. I have talked pretty openly about how I don't really want to do transport anymore. And where does that leave me when it comes to dwarf rats? There are some breeders within Texas who breed dwarf rats. And I could get on waiting lists and wait out for more girl dwarfs. But if I am being perfectly honest, I am not really seeking out any more dwarf rats because my experience with them has been kind of a nightmare. So, like, I love my dwarfs. You all know I love my dwarfs. Still is one of my heart rats. But, oh my god, it has just been one thing after the other with the dwarfs in a way that it's just not the case with my standards. None of my standards. Like, genuinely none of my standards give me as many problems as my dwarf rats. All of my dwarf rats. Including Junimo and Jojo. Like, Jojo was fine. She never really gave me any trouble until she got the pituitary tumor. But Junimo, it was one thing after the other. It was just like, oh, respiratory infection. Oh, another respiratory infection. Here's UTI. Here's the teeth problems. Here's the weight problems. It's just like, it was one thing after another. It's just like a cascade event with her until she ultimately got the ear polyp that, you know, I decided to put her to sleep with Jojo because of that. But it was genuinely just like, with the dwarfs, it is genuinely just one thing after the other. And my standards do not do this to me. So I got the dwarf rats because they're tumor resistant, which means they don't get really any mammary gland tumors. It's very, very rare. But they do get other issues, like heart issues. 3 of my dwarfs had heart issues. They do get pituitary tumors. Jojo got a pituitary tumor. It seems to be not that uncommon in female dwarf rats. Maybe not as common as standards, but certainly not uncommon. I've seen several of them get pituitary gland tumors. Also, ear infections. Like, the worst ear infections I've dealt with my rats were all the dwarfs. Cloud might have had an ear infection. She probably did. Or it could have been like a tooth root abscess. We weren't 100% sure with her. But, like, the only confirmed ear infections I've gotten have been with my dwarf rats. And, like, it was the same with both of them, where it's just like, oh, I think their head's tilted. I'll get them on antibiotics. Oh, no, they're severely tilted. They're rolling around. They're suffering. And both of them, with both Scylla and Polly, we did get them to a point where the ear infection was resolved, but they had a permanent head tilt. Now, Polly's, I think they're at about the same severity. Scylla might be a little bit worse because her ear infection was really quite nasty. But it's still an issue. And then the thing with dwarfs is they're supposed to live a lot longer. And of my dwarfs, I currently have 5. I've had 11 if you include Aura, 10 if you don't include Aura. And only 2 of them lived to over 2. And, like, Mystic's over 2, thankfully. Barely, but she is over 2. But it's just, like, it's been a nightmare. It's like they smell more. Their behavioral issues are still present. It's like Jojo was such a nightmare. And, like, these guys aren't too bad, thankfully. But, like, I still had behavioral issues. And it's like, I'm not dealing with mammary gland tumors. But it's, like, respiratory issues, heart issues, ear infections, the tooth thing with Junmo. It's just, genuinely, it has been a nightmare. My dwarf rats have been a nightmare in comparison to my standard size rats. So even if a amazing breeder popped up next to me, but they only had dwarf rats, I think I would, at the very least, be very, very, very hesitant. If I ended up with dwarf rats, fine. I'm not going to reject rats just because they're dwarf, because, you know, every rat needs a home. But at the same time, I'm not going to be seeking them out. So, with that group, I am transitioning them into a standard size group. I already have Doyle and Weaver in there, but I am going to be very, very selective on the standards that I put in that group, because because they do need to have, like, bomb-proof temperaments in order to go in with dwarfs. And Doyle and Weaver have that. Like, Weaver gets a little, like, prickly when she's in heat, but it's, like, very minor. It's nothing to really be concerned over, and she doesn't really take it out on anyone. She might have bitten Glitch's ear, but even that, it's just like, even in a completely harmonious group, one single fight could get an ear torn. And she's not an aggressive rat. She's just, like, she gets a little prickly when she's in heat sometimes. It's very rare. So, I don't know currently where I'll get the next, I want babies to go in that group specifically when I get more. I'm not in a rush because they're a group of 7 right now. That's perfectly fine group size. I'm not going to worry about getting them companions for a while. But I don't know yet where I will get those companions, but I'll figure that out when the time comes. I do have to, again, I have to be very selective because Scylla is super duper tiny. She is, because of the prednisone, she lost a little bit of weight. So she's currently 70 grams. She's disabled, and she's a drama queen. She squeaks if anything bothers her. She squeaks sometimes when I'm petting her, and, like, she's completely relaxed and she has her chin resting in my hand and she's just, like, limp and relaxed and happy, and then she'll just start squeaking for no reason, and I'll stop petting her and she'll be like, wait, I wasn't done. Just like, well, you squeaked at me. What am I supposed to do here, babe? So, like, Scylla's very dramatic, she's very tiny, and she's disabled. So I do have to be very selective about who goes in that group, just for her safety, because if you get a reactionary rat, it's going to be bad. So, like, that's a thing. That's a factor that I have to keep in mind for that group. But yeah, those are my current rat plans. I am still hoping that I can get some neutered boys for the Gravies, but we'll just see how that shakes out. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what to do. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!